It's Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
It's time for the biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, are top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport. Let's join the team for the biggest show in the world of sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.
Manic Monday, and welcome to it, everybody. This is ZiFM Sport, your favorite sports show. We are taking a look back at the weekend. That was plenty of action. Now, I can't wait until we get to the Castle Lager World Football Report, where we'll pick apart last night's UEFA Champions League final between Bayern Munich and PSG. It was a match that promised much in the way of excitement and action, but in the end, it delivered just the solitary goal. But tonight, the big stars didn't show up. It was Kingsley Coman, a Frenchman born and bred in Paris, trained by PSG, that thrust a dagger to the heart of Parisian dreams. We'll be picking all the meat off that bone in the second half of the show with a team of stars that does show up each and every weekday, 6 to 7 p.m. And that team is Barry Menandi, Alois Munjira, Christine Midzi, our producer, or our Hans-Dieter Flick, Sean Tafirenyika. My name is Mike Madoda. Now, you can also look forward to, on the home front, Warriors coach Zdravko Logarosic has temporarily shut the door on players plying their trade in the Castle Lager Premier Soccer League for the upcoming back-to-back Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers against Algeria due to the prolonged inactivity of domestic football. We also have some international sport news where DJ Dustin Johnson reclaimed the world #1 ranking with a dominant victory at the Northern Trust as he secured his 22nd PGA Tour title.
We take you around the world in 60, beginning in Canberra, where 8th man Pete Samu and wing Tom Wright both scored a brace of second-half tries to help the Brisbane Brumbies power to a comprehensive 38-11 Super Rugby AU win over the New South Wales Waratahs at the Geo Stadium. In New York, top-seeded Karolina Pliskova and number 2 Sophia Kenin crashed out of the Western and Southern Open, failing in their opening matches at the National Tennis Center in New York last night. And in Florida, Dallas Mavericks guard Luka Doncic became the youngest player in NBA playoff history to make a 40-point triple-double as he hit a buzzer-beater game winner against the LA Clippers.
We'll dive into our play of the day. Then it's time for the Castle Lager World Football Report, where we celebrate the champions. Bayern Munich coach Hansi Flick. Now, he was thrilled to silence their doubters after winning the Champions League final last night. In other news, Sevilla boss Julen Lopetegui expressed his joy after his side's very special Europa League triumph on Friday night as he proclaimed, quote, "Our team never surrenders." Our team never surrenders as well on ZiFM Sport. Our team is always here to deliver. And deliver those two teams did over the past weekend. Some would say they were dynamite. This is Korean boy band BTS with a track by the same name, Dynamite. It's our power play on Manic Monday.
The Warriors, the Chevrons, the Cheetahs, the Mighty Warriors, and the Sables. From the pool to the track to the field, we are Team Zimbabwe. The Home Front. Local sports news and analysis.
Don't forget, we like to keep it interactive. Keep your tweets coming in, your thoughts, your views, your takes on anything sport at ZiFM Sport. You can also follow and interact with us in our individual capacities. Simply search for Sean Tafirenyika, our producer, Alois Munjira, Christine Midzi, Barry Menandi, myself, Mike Madoda, or even the big man himself, Mark Pozzo, very much part of our team. Now, let's start on the home front with news that Warriors coach Zdravko Logarosic has temporarily shut the door on players plying their trade in the Castle Lager Premier Soccer League for the upcoming back-to-back Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers against Algeria due to the prolonged inactivity of domestic football. The Warriors, who are second behind the Desert Foxes, are likely to face the North Africans between the 9th and 17th of November, according to the revised fixture program released by the Confederation of African Football, CAF, last week. Yesterday, the 54-year-old coach, whose schedule has been affected by COVID-19, said that he would have no choice but to overlook local players for selection when the Warriors reassemble. And it's hardly a surprise, isn't it, Alois, that he's been forced to have that approach, because you simply can't select players who have been inactive, no matter how big their reputation.
Yeah, of course, Mike, that was obvious coming from the coach. We spoke about it as well, that there is no way that the local boys are going to be selected for this match because of the inactivity at all. There is no way. You start with fitness, you start with your mental preparedness. Everything is so wrong. There's no way. I think that was just an obvious case, and we are lucky. We are lucky that in recent years, we've managed to export a few more players to Europe, so that now we can actually have a full contingent of a team. We can actually have a good squad made up of only foreign-based players that can actually compete. That's how lucky we have been over the last few years. But if it was any other years before, we know it was going to be a struggle because we didn't have enough of those players who are based abroad. So I think I agree with him 100% that there is no way. Even in the next match, I think for the whole qualifiers, I think this is a dead end for the local footballers in the country, because there's no way that they're going to be selected. We have spoken about it, that the local authorities, the leadership, they are not looking into some of these things. These are some of the problems now that are cropping up for not getting back into action quick enough.
Now, Barry, do we have a big enough pool of players for Logarisic to select from? Do we have enough quality outside of our borders for us to assemble a really good team that can challenge Algeria? Let's not forget that Algeria are the current African champions, boasting some stellar names, some stellar performers in the biggest leagues in the world, not least of all, Riyad Mahrez, one of the star players at Manchester City.
Yeah, look, the easy answer is we do. We do have the capacity to assemble a competitive side, a side that would run out against Algeria and put on a show. The question of us being competitive against Algeria is a separate one, so I'm going to leave that one to one side. It's largely as a result of what Alois pointed out, that we've got lots of players who are plying their trade outside the country. And in fact, chances are that we would have probably picked a side that was predominantly foreign anyway. Because if you look at the local talent pool, you'll probably be talking about the likes of Silas Songani. I feel sorry for him, because I think he would have made a decent case to be considered in selection by Logarisic as one of the locally based players. But apart from that, you're scraping around for 2 or 3 players who would join camp, and probably in the broader squad, not necessarily in the 23-24 that then would constitute the matchday team. So for me, yeah, we're fine. We can pick a squad. I hope that ZiFM is considering the fact that Corona won't have gone anywhere by the time we get around to that level. So we'll need to create a bubble around the national team. We'll need to make sure that the health protocols, that biosecure area, cannot be breached. They'll need to make a plan for how press conferences take place and all sorts, so that contact is limited. Chances are it's going to be in empty stadiums as well. So all of those things still need to be considered. The FA has got a lot of work to do. They shouldn't just think that, since we are foreign-based players, we're going to be fine. There's still work to be done.
Yeah, there's still work to be done, and that's the question that I was going to throw at Chris around creating that bubble, because the game will need to be played here in Zimbabwe. We'll need to host Algeria for one of these fixtures. And do we have that capacity, Chris, to establish that? Because it would have been a far easier job had we tried to do something in our local league, had we tried to at least get some action going and sort of like stress tested the system before we actually look to hosting an international team.
So the scenario we have at the moment is, it looks like for local football, there is no plan. And like you're mentioning, the fact that we would have had a test case, we would have been able to see what works and what doesn't, which facilities we'd be able to use in terms of a biosecure environment, where's the best place to have it. We would have all of that information had we actually had a plan to go into, to start our local football season. Because we don't, I think ZiFM is going to have a very tricky situation on their hands. They're going to need to do a lot of work in terms of creating that bubble. I think people there's a lot of assumptions that can be made, and there's a lot of extrapolation. You can take a look at how South Africa has done it, how has Zambia resumed. You can take a look at broader case studies as well across possibly in Europe. But the issue is Zimbabwe is a very different setup because we don't have the infrastructure that some of these other countries have. So in order for you to be able to extrapolate some of these things, you need the infrastructure. And because we don't, the job is doubly difficult for ZiFM because they need to somehow create an environment that allows for football to be played and still in relatively secure, a relatively biosecure environment. So they have a lot of work cut out for them, especially because they haven't stress tested anything. There is no plan. And we've been hearing for around 8 to 10 weeks that they're creating a plan. They need to be able to implement a plan to see exactly how to implement it then for this particular time when we'll be hosting Algeria.
Chris, I want to continue with you because I'm just thinking to myself that Algeria arrives, okay? They touch down at Harare International Airport. Now, when we talk about creating a secure and safe and healthy environment for our visitors, it all starts at the airport, doesn't it?
Definitely.
It then moves on to the transportation, goes to the hospitality industry where they will be staying, goes to their training facilities, before we even get to them playing Zimbabwe at whatever stadium is chosen. So this is not a project that's going to involve 40 or 50 people. In my mind, I'm already seeing at least 200-300 people that will need to be tested, that will need to be isolated, that will need to be supported just to get this game underway.
And that's what's tricky is if we couldn't even do it with local football teams, even just a couple of local football teams to see what happens, how do we then get into a situation where, say, for example, like you're mentioning, from the airport, if you take a look at our airport, we need to somehow have separate entrances. We need to have the drivers who are driving this particular team and
There's going to be that lady waiting with a little temperature gun.
with the laser and a little bit of sanitizer for the hands. And it needs to be a lot more than that. All of those people that are coming into contact with this team, all of your immigration officers, there's maybe specific immigration officers need to be tested. Then you need to get into their escort, as it were. All of their local escort also needs to be tested. Where are these people going to stay? Who, in terms of funding, who is funding all of this? And at the moment, we're seeing a bit of resistance from the Football Association from the perspective that, Zimbabwe doesn't have enough tests, we don't have enough capacity. So what happens in this instance where you've got 300 to 400 people involved in this? Let's not forget you likely need media there as well. You're going to be hosting press conferences. How is all of this going to work if we can't even get it started right from the basic?
And now, Alois, the elephant in the room. Can we even host Algeria? Have our stadiums been approved by CAF? Or we are just discussing something here at a very theoretical level? Because the last time I checked, our stadiums were not up to standard. Are they up to standard? Have they been re-inspected? Have they been given the thumbs up so that we can host Algeria?
Yeah, Mike, I think that is actually quite tricky because right now we don't know what has been happening. We know if there was work that was being done during all COVID break. The last time we were updated about the National Sports Stadium, which is probably our only stadium that could be possibly used for these games because they were talking of being upgraded. We only saw the changing rooms that were mixed colors anyway because the away team had actually our own home colors, so we don't know if they changed. After that, we haven't been informed or updated about what is happening at the National Sports Stadium. So hope, like I say, we hope that they have been doing work.
Absolutely. Still a lot of work to be done by ZiFM on and off the field. Logarosic, of course, so we'll have to select the side that will play against Algeria. ZiFM will need to make sure that the situation on ground, it's ready and, of course, safe and healthy enough for the big stars of Algeria when they land on these shows. This is ZiFM Sport, picking apart the most pertinent issues in the world of sport, local as well as international. Mike Madura here in the company of Chris Gray, Barry Manandi, Alois Mbunjira, and our producer Sean Tafirinyika. You got a local sports news roundup to look forward to. That's coming up just now. And then we'll go international with our sports news with Dustin Johnson. Is the new world #1 in the sport of golf.
Hi, my name is Sean Williams, Zimbabwe cricket captain. You're listening to ZiFM Sport. Z.
Let's get into that local sports news roundup now, starting with cricket, where the Pakistan Cricket Board has confirmed that Zimbabwe will tour the Asian country for limited overs fixtures to be played in November. PCB Chief Executive Wasim Khan was quoted in the Asian country's media stating that Zimbabwe are scheduled to arrive in Pakistan in mid-October for 3 one-day internationals and the same number of T20 internationals. The one-day internationals are part of the ICC Super League, which is the pathway for the 2023 Cricket World Cup to be played in India. As per the prevailing coronavirus procedures, the Zimbabwean team will land in Pakistan on the 20th of October and spend 2 weeks in quarantine, after which the series starts from the first week of November. On to rugby news. The proposed tour of Netherlands by the country's 15th national rugby team, the Sables, has been pushed to the end of November. In an interview, Sables team manager Jason Maritz said that the change in the dates of the tour have been necessitated by the fact that Zimbabwe is not on the list of countries allowed to enter Netherlands at the moment. Initially, the Sables were meant to visit the Netherlands at the end of October to the beginning of November for 2 tests. Let's wrap it up with golf news, where Zimbabwe professional golfer Greg Bentley returned to the Sunshine Tour on a good note after he made the cut in an opening tournament in Johannesburg. He took part in the Betway Championship at Killarney Country Club. Bentley was the country's sole representative and finished tied on position 29 of the tournament, which ended yesterday, marked the return of the tour, which had been on hold since February.
Hi, this is Mike Madoda, and you can catch me and the team for all the latest breaking news out of the world of sport, local as well as international, on your favorite station, my station, your station, ZiFM. We are Z-Team on ZiFM Sport.
Z. From the front of the grid to the back of the net, it's ZiFM Sport. International Sports News Roundup, where the world comes out to play.
In international sports news, we camp out on golf, where DJ Dustin Johnson reclaimed the world #1 ranking with a dominant victory at the Northern Trust as he secured his 22nd PGA Tour title. Johnson, whose last spell at the top of the rankings was last May, shot a final round 63 to finish on 30 under par, the joint second lowest score in PGA history, and win by 11 shots from Harris English. Now, Johnson says his ball striking was unbelievable at the Northern Trust, and he is now looking forward to the remaining FedEx Cup playoffs.
Obviously, this was a really good week. My ball striking was unbelievable. I found something on Wednesday. I felt like I was swinging really good, but something just clicked on Wednesday, and I really hit it well on Thursday. I didn't really make a lot of putts, but I really went and worked hard on my putting on Thursday afternoon, and it paid off. Obviously, I rolled it really nicely on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I played some really good golf, and it was a lot of fun. And so I'm looking forward to the rest of the FedEx Cup playoffs. Obviously, I got myself in a really good position, going into East Lake, and then obviously next week too. So, next week's still a big tournament, and I'm looking forward to going and playing Olympia Fields. I haven't been there yet.
Z.
A DJ back atop the rankings, and it's only logical that we start with probably the biggest Dustin Johnson fan in the country, probably on the African continent, Michael Madoda. You must be pleased not only for the win at the Northern Trust, but secondly, the cherry on top, which is claiming world #1 ranking.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's been the most consistent golfer, Barry, over the last 5 years. And he's got an uncanny knack of being able to master all 3 aspects of golf. Driving off the tee, approach play, as well as putting. And this was one weekend when he got all 3 going. And we know that Dustin Johnson is arguably the longest hitter on tour. And so when he gets it right off the tee, he's pretty difficult to beat, because he's basically going driver, pitching wedge, and putter. Whilst many guys will be quite possibly 50, 100 yards behind him and are having to negotiate a very difficult 8 or 7 iron, he's pitching it on. And so this is what happened this weekend, Barry. And for him to have scored, Barry, 67 on the opening day and then 60. Now, on that 60 that he shot, he was actually going to have a record-breaking round, and he sort of like messed up the last par 5, which would have seen him shoot a 59. But he had an opportunity after hole number 15 to actually have scored as low as 56 in that final round. But he parred the remaining 3 holes. And so it was that sort of performance, 67 on the opening day, that magnificent 60 on second day, 64 on the third day, and then unrelenting 63 on the final day, Barry. That's championship winning golf. And the very fact that he won by such a big distance from the guy who finished third, 11 shots. That's just incredible. It's a dominant display, and he's in some sort of form. I felt he fell away on the final day of the USPGA Championship when he led after 3 days. It didn't get going on day 4 for him. But he'll be hoping that he can maintain this, Barry, so that he can challenge for the remaining majors of the year.
Yeah, and Mike talks about the fact that he's probably the most consistent player on tour. And Chris, you have to be consistent, yes, on tour, but for tournaments, you certainly have to be consistent for the 4 days. And DJ has shown that by the fact that he's scored 4 rounds in the 60s, totaling that 30 under par. And it's no surprise that he was 11 shots ahead of Harris English, who was choking on rule dust, in truth, because there was nobody who could touch DJ with rounds of 60 and the lower 60s for 3 of the rounds. You can't beat that. It's championship form indeed.
You can't beat that, and it's definitely well-deserved. I think what we're seeing is, like Mike said, this is one player who's becoming increasingly dominant because of that consistency throughout a tournament. And you take a look and compare him to other players as well that we would talk about, and you can see the fact that he deservedly won this. Rory McIlroy, he actually came out and admitted that he's struggling for intensity because of the lack of fans at the golf courses, and he's basically been going through the motions. Tiger Woods as well, someone we'd expect at this point to have bounced back, but since the return of golf, he hasn't been able to deliver the way that we would expect from Tiger Woods, especially in a scenario like this, which is interesting. So I think just in this particular setup that they're playing in, I think it's helped some players like DJ, but for other players, I think they've really struggled for that consistency, and consistency is what's needed, especially in these particular tournaments.
And I think one of the things that helps DJ, Barry, is that even before the crowds went away, when the galleries were there, you and I have so often laughed at the way that DJ is able to do something really incredible, not even smile, not even celebrate, and move on like nothing has absolutely happened. And so you can tell that in terms of just his mentality and approach, he's that sort of player who's not really affected with what's happening around him, whether they're cheers or boos, whether there's excitement or not, whether there's noise or not. So that sort of player will perform well in these circumstances where there are no galleries, because his game is unaffected. He's not someone who feeds off emotion and adrenaline like Rory McIlroy, which is what Chris was trying to point off. He's failing to get his game going because he feeds off the energy of the gallery, the buzz that's around the course, the pre-round press conferences and all that engagement, the media engagement. There are guys who live off that, like Rory McIlroy. DJ he's the sort of guy who just arrives from the car park to the training range, from the training range to hole number 1, and he cracks on. That's it. Yeah. He's got his brother as his caddy as well, which means that he's in a really nice place, in a really nice safe space for him.
DJ doesn't make any bones about what he does. He just gets on with it. He's a bit like the Bayern Munich of golf. But I get ahead of myself. We'll talk about that when we get to the Casablanca World Football Report. But certainly, DJ, I truly, and from the bottom of my heart, believe that this is a player who sorely deserves to be at the top of the rankings, and also deserves a couple more majors than he's already achieved. He'll have some chances coming up, and hopefully you'll be able to deliver upon those. He is your world number 1 in the world of golf.
Hi, my name's Ryan Cairns, Sunshine Tour professional golfer, and you're listening to ZiFM Sport.
Around the world in 60 seconds. International sports news.
We take off in Canberra, where 8th man Pete Samu and wing Tom Wright both scored a brace of second half tries to help the Brisbane Brumbies power to a comprehensive 38-11 Super Rugby AU win over the New South Wales Waratahs at the Geo Stadium. Samu scored a try at the start of the second half and one at the end of the half, but it was the two scored by Wright that effectively killed the game as a contest. We head over to New York, where top seed Karina Pliskova and number 2 Sophia Kenin crashed out of the Western and Southern Open, failing in their opening matches at the National Tennis Center in New York last night. Russia's Veronika Kudermetova, ranked 41st in the world, toppled world number 3 Pliskova of the Czech Republic 7-5, 6-4 in their second round clash. France's Elise Cornet notched her first win over a top 5 player in 2 years when she shocked Australian champion Kenin 6-1, 7-6 to reach the round of 16. We'll touch down in Florida, where Dallas Mavericks guard Luka Doncic became the youngest player in NBA playoff history to make a 40-point triple-double as he hit a buzzer-beater game winner against the LA Clippers. Doncic's 43 points helped the Mavericks win 135-133 to level the series. The Slovenian joins Charles Barkley and Oscar Robertson as the only players to score at least 40 points, 15 rebounds, and 10 assists in a playoff game.
The big leagues, the big teams, the big players. The beautiful game on ZiFM Sport.
Who blows the full-time whistle? And Bayern Munich are champions of Europe for the 6th time. A team that's been an unstoppable scoring machine has capped a record-breaking season with the biggest trophy in club football. A great team full of great players are the champions of Europe, and the celebrations have begun here in Lisbon. Kingsley Coman, the match winner. It wasn't the classic we expected, but it was a well-worked Bayern Munich goal. Coman's header in the second half was enough for them tonight. And they will celebrate long into the night, because Bayern Munich, Steve, are the champions of Europe again.
Yes, they are, and I think it's totally deserved. And look at the celebrations from the likes of Thomas Muller, Manuel Neuer. Just the fact that there's no fans here doesn't mean anything. It means absolutely everything to them.
Kylian Mbappe is crestfallen. It wasn't Neymar's night by any stretch of the imagination. Thomas Muller will smile. He's a winner again with Bayern Munich. And spare a thought for PSG, who fell just short tonight after the best ever Champions League season. A team who'll be strong contenders again when the competition returns in October. But the night belongs to Germany and to Bayern Munich, who are back on top after 7 years. The record breakers are the history makers, and they are officially the best football team in Europe. Full time in Lisbon, Paris Saint-Germain 0, Bayern Munich 1. Bayern Munich have won the Champions League.
Z.
Oh, what a night in Lisbon. It was Germany versus France in Portugal. And Bayern Munich coach Hansi Flick was thrilled to silence their doubters after winning the Champions League final last night. It is Bayern's 6th European title, and he also guided them to the Bundesliga and German League Cup this season, meaning that Bayern Munich have now claimed the domestic European treble. And it's not the first time, it's the second time, and they become the second club after Barcelona to do that. Let's hear from Hans-Dieter Flick.
Kingsley hat herausragende Fähigkeiten und heute hat auch gezeigt, dass er Tore schießen kann. Das war auch ein ganz wichtiges.
Kingsley has incredible talent, and he showed that tonight, that he can score goals in very important matches. As for the team, I must say that it isn't easy just to win 3 trophies from one day to the next. We put in a lot of work. I want to point out that back in November, you could read in the press that nobody should be afraid of Bayern, that they shouldn't respect Bayern because they're such a bad side. So I think we've created really incredible progress since then.
Z.
Alois, it's an incredible treble from Bayern Munich, and they will certainly go down as one of the best sides to ever win the competition. I think it's 10 out of 10. They've won every match they played in the Champions League this season.
Yeah, it's definitely a great achievement, Mike. It's actually 11 out of 11. Which is actually quite brilliant, and I'm very impressed. Not just for the wins. In the manner in which they've been winning. They played in the Champions League final. They didn't give PSG a chance. PSG, when you look at Paris Saint-Germain, their front three are the most dangerous, world beaters, world-class players, but they were made to look ordinary, all of them, yesterday because of the high press. People were talking about high press of Bayern Munich. They were saying that if they do the same thing or the way they did with other clubs about high press, they're going to be found wanting by PSG. But they did exactly that. They came and did what they do. They knew what they were doing, and they came and did the high press, and it worked for them, and they actually neutralized PSG. It was actually, for me, it was an outstanding performance. It was not a thriller. The match itself was not a thriller, but I think tactically the Germans got it right completely.
Tactically, the Germans getting it right, Barry, and it shows you that when you have a game plan that works, and yes, every game plan might have its weaknesses, but if you apply it well and you do the basics correctly, you give yourself a good chance of winning. And Bayern Munich stuck to their methods, and it's credit to Hansi Flick.
And the moral of the story is this, that you've got to have your way of playing. You've got to impose your will upon your opposition, more so than try and counter whatever the opposition is going to do. Yes, you've got to, that's got to be at least 20% of your planning. But the 80% has got to be for you to enforce your way of doing things. And I love the way that Hansi Flick has gone about his business since taking over at Bayern Munich, whereby he has said, this is the way that we play. We play a high line in defense. We play a high press. We try to control the ball. We try to keep the ball for as long as we can. And we're intense in everything that we do, whether in attack, in defense, whatever the case may be. We work our cotton socks off all around the pitch. And look at what it delivered last night. I know Bunch says it wasn't a thriller, but for me, tactically, it was a thriller. It was an absolutely scintillating game to see the tactical nous of the two coaches and how they were trying to out-counter each other.
And a bit of a surprise, Barry, isn't it, for many, that he left out Perisic and brought in Kingsley Coman, and in the end, it turned out to be a masterstroke.
It did. He was criticised chiefly by the man who's coming in as president of Bayern Munich, actually Oliver Kahn, on German TV apparently, who, when he saw the lineup, said that what on earth is Hansi Flick doing? Man comes on, he's the man of the match, or Kingsley Coman. So now, who's laughing last? Hansi Flick. And that's the key. Stick to your methods, trust yourself, back yourself, and it worked out. So in truth, vindicated.
Vindicated, and of course, Kingsley Coman haunting his former club as his second half header guided Bayern Munich to victory. Now, Coman himself has admitted to some mixed feelings about the Champions League winner he struck last night.
J'ai envie de dire, c'est l'un des plus beaux jours de ma vie au niveau du football. Après, en même temps, j'ai un petit truc.
It's one of the best days of my life in football. I'm a bit sad though, because PSG is a club that really means a lot to me. I grew up there. So there's a lot of joy and a lot of sadness. I don't think I came out from nowhere. Arjen Robben, Franck Ribéry are two extraordinary players. They've had extraordinary careers, winning the Champions League, but their whole career is extraordinary. Before being compared to players like that, you have to be good and strive to be better for years to come.
Chris, you've got to say that Coman, first of all, he was an unlikely selection because he hadn't featured, for Bayern Munich. He had been coming off the bench. Ivan Perisic was the man that had been selected for the big games ahead of him. And then secondly, the unlikely hero in a game that featured so many stars. I mean, you take a look at the PSG team with Neymar, with Mbappe, with Angel Di Maria, his own teammates, Lewandowski, Thomas Müller. Those were the players that were expected to grab all the headlines. In the end, it was Kingsley Coman.
In the end, it was Kingsley Coman, and you take a look at the fact that this is his where essentially he started. This is the team that trained him, and here he is scoring the Champions League winner against them. And it was an incredibly beautiful poetic note, as it were. But it's also just shows you, in terms of Bayern Munich and their strength, in terms of that squad, in terms of the number of players who are able to deliver, just that depth and the fact that they're not overly reliant on a couple of players, but that those Bayern Munich goals can come from anywhere. We've seen it across their domestic season. We've seen it across the Champions League. And that's exactly what came into play last night, was the fact that a player like Coleman, who nobody was expecting, was the one to score the winner, chiefly because these goals from Bayern Munich can come from anywhere.
Is it a weakness of these teams, Chris, especially PSG, that sometimes they're impatient with players? Because you've talked about the fact that Kingsley Coleman grew up in Paris, trained by PSG. The very fact that they let him go, he's been able to win trophies with Juventus. He's been able to now win trophies with Bayern Munich. Shows you that surely he's a good player. Had they been a bit more patient to have actually starred for PSG?
I think PSG, it's definitely a weakness, and it stems from the fact that they've got the big bucks to spend for your big name players. So instead of waiting for those players that they've produced to start showing them results, what they'll do is they'll go and pluck a Neymar and a Mbappe and get those players for big sums of money and expect immediate returns. I don't think PSG is a patient club at all. I think what they want is immediate results, and you're definitely not going to get that from a player who still needs a bit more development. And it's a shame for them, but look, if they were to continue on that path, they'll definitely be spending a whole lot of money that they don't necessarily have to, because they're able to produce these kind of players that are obviously producing results just a little bit further along in their careers.
Okay, Bayern Munich attacker Kingsley Coman becoming the 5th Frenchman to score in a UEFA Champions League final after Karim Benzema in 2018, Zinedine Zidane 2002, Marcel Desailly 1994, and Bolly in 1993. Now, the losing side was PSG, French side, and their coach is Thomas Tuchel, a German, who says that losing the Champions League final was the worst feeling in the world.
Oui, je suis très fier. J'ai déjà dit l'équipe.
I am very proud. I've already told the team that. It's always the worst feeling in the world losing a final like that. But I lost the final in a match where the two teams really deserved to be in the final. We ran with a lot of intensity, mentality, and we had a lot of quality. We've gone on this run together as a team. I think there's always been a great mood in the camp, and that's given us the opportunity to win 4 pieces of silverware.
Alois, where to for PSG from here? Because this is a club that has been built specifically not to just dominate French football, but to challenge in Europe. And there are many people who felt that this was their best chance. They had a real chance of being crowned European champions, and they fell short. Do they have the capacity to go again next season? What do they need to do to take the next step?
Yeah, it's tricky, Mike. They had a chance last night, but I still believe that they have the ammunition to actually come back next season and fight for it again. But what they were beaten to by Bayern Munich yesterday, I think it was tactically and intensity. They didn't have the intensity of Bayern Munich. I think with the same crop of players, if they added a little bit more intensity to their play and actually worked harder than they did, I actually think that they could actually match everybody else. But I promise you, next season is not going to be easy, because the big giants, the sleeping giants, Man City are going to strengthen, Manchester United, Barcelona are going to strengthen, Real Madrid are going to come stronger, AC Milan, whatever, this Inter Milan and Juve, they're going to come stronger. So it's going to be very tricky for them to actually bounce back. They actually went through. Remember, we talked jokingly about it, that they actually had an easier path this time around to get to the final. It might not be the case next season, so they need to up their game and strengthen as well. And for me, I still think that with the kind of players that they've got, if they want to keep them, they need to increase their intensity, and tactically they also need to improve. I think they did improve, but they need to keep on improving so that they can actually match the big boys of European football as well. They have got a good team, and I still give them a chance if they quake a little bit and they can come back stronger and challenge again.
Barry, their star players are undoubtedly Neymar and Mbappe. And you've got to say that there were a couple of chances that fell to either player. And when you're up against a Bayern Munich in a final of this nature, you've got to take those chances. The 2 chances came their way. They weren't able to score. And it's on moments like that that you lose matches of this nature.
Yeah, and that's why it's so hard to break your duck. In truth, you at this level and at the Champions League level, in fact, at elite level, you have to have the calmness of heart, body, and spirit in order for you to deliver in the critical phases, in the critical moments of those games. Unfortunately, whether it was a case of the players and the team in itself not having the street smarts, the chitsotsi to get it done on the stage that it needed to be done, that's really what undid PSG. Because in truth, had PSG gone 1-2-0 up, even 2-1 up, this game could have gone very differently because it was clear that their defensive solidity was working. So in those critical moments, Mbappe, Neymar, you've got to deliver. However, that's not to remove the brilliance of Manuel Neuer, because he's back to his best, he's back at the top of his game and pulled off saves that lesser keepers wouldn't have been able to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we can put to bed that argument around Germany's number one, the constant debate that we've had over the last 3 years. Is it Ter Stegen at Barcelona or is it Manuel Neuer? And you saw the performances of Manuel Neuer on a big night like last night, and he came out trumps. Now, PSG failing to score in a game in a major UEFA European competition for the first time in 35 matches. Last failing to do so in a 1-0 defeat to Manchester City in April 2016. Bayern Munich, the victors, they've now won the Champions League for a 6th time. They now pull level with Liverpool in 3rd place. They only trail, of course, Real Madrid, who lead with 13, and AC Milan with 7. So they look like they've got a good team, a team that will certainly return to this competition next season as the favourites to retain their crown.
Hi, I'm Warriors coach Zdravko Logarušić, and you are listening to ZiFM Sport.
Sports with a difference.
Well, as we said on Friday, it was Cup final weekend because the Europa League final took place on Friday night, and Sevilla boss Julian Lopetegui expressed his joy after his side's very special Europa League triumph on Friday night as he proclaimed, quote, "Our team never surrenders." The Spanish Giants won the competition for a record 6th time by beating Inter 3-2 in the showpiece event in Germany. Sevilla saw off Manchester United 2-1 in the semi-finals to set up the clash with the Italian Giants, who thrashed Shakhtar Donetsk 5-0 in their last 4 tie. Let's get the post-match thoughts from Julian Lopetegui, who of course is the Sevilla boss.
Creo que ha sido un partido muy bonito para los aficionados, seguramente no tanto para los del Sevilla.
I think it was a very good game for the fans. In the second half, we were in control for longer spells than them. We did not suffer, and Diego Carlos scored a great goal, which came after he conceded the penalty. In short, the victory belongs to everyone. Those who score goals and those who don't. Those who play and those who don't. And all those who have helped us in the past months. They are all essential to get a balanced team. I thank everyone, but especially those who have been less involved.
The voice there of Julian Lopetegui, no doubt cock-a-hoop after his victory, Alois, and in truth, this is a man almost vindicated because after that debacle at the 2018 World Cup where he was announced as Real Madrid manager, it didn't work out at Real Madrid, he's almost been on a course to redemption, and winning a trophy, a European trophy such as this one, almost sets him well on that path.
Yeah, it's good for him, baby. Good for him. I felt sorry for him as well. He got the flag, like you said. But honestly speaking, I was not a big fan of Sevilla this time around, because I thought that they were progressing in matches and winning matches, that they were the underdogs, and they were progressing in matches that they were playing second fiddle to other teams. I think in the last 3 matches to the final and the final, for me, when I looked at the match, they played second fiddle, but they still got the goals. Probably we can credit it to his tactical acumen, but honestly speaking, I think there was also a twang of luck, in this whole Europa Cup progression for for Sevilla, because maybe it was just like Sevilla name on the trophy. It's their trophy. It favors them. But I thought that Manchester United were on top of them. Inter Milan in the final were on top of them, but they managed to come back from behind. What I can give to them is their never die spirit, because they were trailing. They still came back. They were trailing again, they still come back. You know, that kind of resilience, I think it's appreciated, and I think probably instilled by the coach. But nevertheless, I still believe that they got the better opponents, and they went through. Credit to them, but I still believe that they were riding on some luck for them to get.
It's some harsh criticism, and I'd like to stay with you, Alois. But let me get the thoughts of Mike on this one. Luck, or would you say that Sevilla gave as good as they got from, in truth, far superior opposition in many cases?
I think what Sevilla know, Barry, is they know how to win games. And it's a very special trait, because I think when we take a look at dominating play, they might not sometimes dominate play, but they are a good footballing side. They remind me very much of the Real Madrid side that won 3 Champions League trophies back-to-back. Yeah. That side, in football matches, if you notice, but that's why Barcelona was dominated. That's why Barcelona would beat that side. But what the Real Madrid side knew was how to win matches. They won matches. You know, even the Champions League, they beat Liverpool in Ukraine 3-1. They didn't dominate Liverpool. You know, we left that match feeling like, shucks, you know, had our keeper not made mistakes, we could have won this trophy. You know, they had players like Ronaldo and Gareth Bale who came out trumps and won matches. And I think it's the same thing with this Sevilla side. They know how to win matches. They've got enough ability for them to create chances, and then when those chances come, they take their chances. So, and I think when you do it over and over and over again, it's not luck.
If you can repeat it, if you can get it done over and over again, it's not luck. And certainly Sevilla have shown that they can get the job done, Chris. And in truth, with a team like this, we're hardly expecting them. They've already qualified for the Champions League through the league format in Spain. I think they finished 4th in the Spanish La Liga, so that's kudos to them. But winning the Europa League certainly is a feather in their cap, and also through the semi-finals against Manchester United, coming from behind, and then against Inter, again coming from behind. We've got to doff our caps to the side.
Definitely. I think in terms of, just like Mike said, managing to win games, which is incredibly important, especially in a competition like this, where you've only got the one chance to be able to progress or to win the trophy in this particular case. So I think being able to do it over and over again is testament to the fact of that never say die attitude. And also tactically, I think they managed to get those tactics spot on in every single game in whatever opposition they come against, because it wasn't an easy route for them. So you're coming up against a Manchester United side that's playing relatively well. And in order for you to go up against a team like that, you need multiple things going for you. And that's what Sevilla's got. They managed to qualify, like you said, through the league format, and again going into the Champions League next season, they'll still be a lot more respected. I'm going to say it's not going to be a team that people look at and say, okay, this is an easy team to beat.
All right, now Sevilla vanquishing Inter Milan, and would like to talk about Inter, but unfortunately we're running out of time, and I must get the in-studio thoughts of this knockout format in European competition. What was your thoughts, guys? And starting with you, Alois, did you like it?
Yeah, but you know, as a fan, you know, I loved it to bits. You know, I hope they can actually do it every year. They do it as soon as they get to the quarterfinals. They just go into one stadium and play round robin, and go and get over and done with it. You know, it's unfortunate that it's taxing for the players, but you need to have your players fit. You know, when it's actually known that we are going to do it, so you condition your players towards that round robin, so it's actually acceptable. I love it. I hope that they can actually maintain it past COVID. Yeah.
Maybe not in one stadium, but certainly the knockout competition. Your thoughts, Chris?
Yeah, maybe, yes, yeah.
I think it was great. I think it gives a different dimension to the game when you've only got the one opportunity and you've only got the one leg. I think then you really see, I think, what teams are made of and which teams can manage to get that result in a game.
Mike, your thoughts on knockout football? You sometimes find it palatable, other times not. How did you find it this time?
No, it was good. I think for me, I would suggest that you have the quarterfinals hosted in different cities, neutral cities. And one-legged affairs like we have seen now. I think that it creates for open attacking football because you have to win it in that one game that you are playing. And then I think the semi-finals and the final can be hosted in one city. It becomes an occasion for that particular city who are hosting the semi-finals and the final, because the semi-finals and the final will be hosted in 1 week. But for me, I love it. I love it because we get to see open, attacking, entertaining football, and it also just closes the gap between the so-called smaller teams and the bigger sides, like we saw between Lyon and Manchester City.
Well, the good news is that Alexander Seferin, the UEFA president, has said that as soon as this TV contract has subsided and seen out its course, they will be having a conversation with the broadcasters towards looking at this format as a realistic option, because we as fans certainly enjoyed it. And can you imagine if there are fans in a stadium in a one-legged affair? It should be something to behold. That's European competition done and dusted. We're back into a new season as of Saturday because the Charity Shield will be on. But from tomorrow's show, we'll be diving into the world of the ABSA, South African Premiership, with extensive coverage. Can Kaizer Chiefs complete the league title, or will Mamelodi Sundowns snatch it at the death? Stay tuned on ZiFM Sport to find out what our thoughts are on what's happening in Muzansi. For now, we're done for the day. Hopefully, you enjoyed it. May God richly bless you. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Manandi, out.
And it's Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
The biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, on top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.